There's a folder sitting on the FCC's website right now with your station's name on it. Anyone can open it right now from their couch at 2 o'clock in the morning. And if something is missing or late or filed wrong, that's a problem that could cost your station tens of thousands of dollars before you even know that there's an investigation. This is the Tyler Woodward Project, and today I'm talking about the FCC public file, what it actually is, why it's a compliance trap that even the big broadcast groups keep falling into, and the specific parts of it that will get you in trouble if you're not paying attention. So let me back up for people who don't usually deal with this directly. Every licensed broadcast station in the United States is required by the FCC to maintain what's called a public inspection file. The idea goes back decades. The FCC wanted the public to be able to walk into any radio station and see that it was actually serving the community. License applications, ownership records, how the station handles political advertising. The public has a right to that information. For most of radio's history, that meant a physical binder in a cabinet somewhere at the main studio. Sure, it was a little dusty, rarely opened, and in most cases it was either the chief engineer or the GM who knew where it was and vaguely knew what was supposed to be in it. That changed in 2018. The FCC moved all radio stations to an online system called the Public Inspection File, hosted at publicfiles.fcc.gov. Big market commercial stations, they transitioned back in 2016. Everyone else had until March 1st of 2018. And here's what changed fundamentally. Everything in that file is now publicly searchable, permanently date-stamped, and can be audited by anyone with an internet connection. A watchdog group, an opposing political campaign, an FCC staffer, a journalist, or your competitor down the street. The binder in the cabinet had a certain obscurity protecting it. The online file, it's got none of that. So, what does the FCC expect you to have in there? It's more than most people think. Your license and applications, obviously. Ownership reports, contour maps, copies of any time brokerage or joint sales agreements, the FCC's own public and broadcasting manual, EEO reports, the equal employment opportunity stuff. All of that's got to be filed annually. A list of donors for specific programs if you're a non-commercial station. And then there's two items that are responsible for the vast majority of fines in this space: the political file and the quarterly issues and programs list. I'll get to both of those. But first, a word about the online public inspection file portal itself. Well, because it deserves its own moment of acknowledgement. The portal, it's not great. It's gone down during election seasons, which is exactly when you can't afford for it to go down. There was a significant outage in late October and early November of 2022, right before the midterms, when stations were trying to upload political ad documentation. The FCC acknowledged the problem. They extended the fourth quarter deadline that year because the system had, quote, intermittent operation. The login system requires FCC registration credentials and now two-factor authentication. Every upload is time-stamped. There's no automated reminders for anything. If the system goes down and your upload is late, that's still your problem. You have to document it, and you have to defend why it was late. One broadcast attorney put it really well. He said the date and timestamp on every upload is, well, essentially a built-in truth serum. You cannot fudge when something was filed. The record, it's right there. So let's talk about the political file. This is the part of the public file that has produced the biggest enforcement actions in radio history. And I want to explain why. Because it's not just about keep records of political ads. It's a little more complicated than that. Under FCC rules, anytime a legally qualified candidate or anyone running an ad that touches on a political matter of national importance who purchases time on your station, you have to document it. And not just document it, you have to upload it to the online public inspection file as soon as possible. The FCC's interpretation of that phrase is, well, within 24 hours or the next business day. And you don't just log the ad buy, you have to record who purchased it, what they paid, which rate class it was, which candidate or issues it references, and if it's a non-candidate organization, a PAC, an advocacy group, you need the names of their officers or board members. Then there's a category that catches people off guard, which is ads that relate to a political matter of national importance. The FCC expanded that definition in 2019 to essentially mean any widely debated national issue, not just elections. An ad about gun policy, about healthcare, about climate, if it touches something being argued about at the national level, it potentially triggers political file requirements. David Oxenford, who runs the Broadcast Law blog and is, well, one of the most read broadcast attorneys in the industry, laid out a hypothetical a few years back about a shooting range. The ad is about local zoning. But is there a national gun issue underneath it? Does that pull it into the political file? His answer was, who knows? That's the state of the rule. Even experts are shrugging. And then there's the 2020 sweep. In July of that year, the FCC went after 6 of the biggest radio companies in the country all at once. iHeart, Cumulus, Intercom, Salem, Alpha, Beasley. Together, those groups covered somewhere between 1,800 and 1,900 stations. All of them had political file problems. The FCC didn't actually find them. They cited the pandemic and the fact that the groups did come forward voluntarily, but the compliance plans, the designated officers, the multi-year reporting requirements, that's not nothing. That's a significant ongoing operational weight and requirement. And for companies that didn't get the same grace, Cumulus paid $540,000 in 2016 for a sponsorship ID failure on a single station in New Hampshire. $500,000. One station. Ads that ran without proper identification. Town Square paid $500,000 in January of 2024 for KIDO and KLIX.
Town Square Media Station. Kevin Miller Mornings. Sean Hannity Afternoons. KIDO Talk Radio 107.5 FM 580 AM. KIDO Nampa. Fox News Now.
2 Idaho talk stations that aired what was essentially a paid political program from the state Republican Party without disclosing that it was paid content and without public file uploads. That violation ran from October 2021 through March of 2023, a year and a half. That complaint wasn't even from the FCC doing some random audit. It was triggered by a local news outlet that noticed the program and started asking questions. Which brings me back to the point about the public file being public. You're not just accountable to the FCC, you're accountable to anybody paying attention. If the political file is the most dangerous folder, the quarterly issues and programs list is the most consistently fined. 4 times a year, January 10th, April 10th, July 10th, October 10th. Every commercial and non-commercial station has to upload a narrative description of the most significant ways it addressed community issues during the prior quarter. What issues came up? What programs dealt with them? There's no form. There's no template. The FCC doesn't tell you how many issues to list, what formats to use, or what significant even means. There's an old pre-1980 rule that implied 5 to 10 issues per quarter. And most broadcast attorneys now use that as a safe, soft, safe harbor. But the FCC has never formally said that's the standard. The issues list is probably the most fined public file item over the past decade, according to multiple broadcast law firms that track enforcement. And the reason is almost always the same. The station forgot, or was short-staffed, or nobody had clear ownership of it, and they missed a quarter, or several quarters. And then the license renewal came around. They look at the file, and there's gaps. And here's what makes this worse. When you file your license renewal, you certify that your public file is complete. If it's not, and you certify that it is, that's a separate violation. The FCC can fine you for the missing list and fine you for the false certification. A station in Virginia paid $15,000 and got a 2-year short-term renewal because the owner, a 92-year-old man, had never filed a quarterly issues list in the entire license term. The FCC's response to the age argument was that age was not an excuse for non-compliance. And that's a direct quote. A cluster of 4 stations in Washington State paid $46,000 total across the group and got 4 years rather than the 8-year renewals because they were missing between 12 and 26 quarters of issues per station. The fix isn't complicated. You just have to actually do it every quarter within 10 days of the quarter ending. The content doesn't have to be elaborate. It needs to be honest, and it needs to be specific enough to demonstrate that the station was thinking about its community. But it has to be there, and it has to be uploaded on time. None of the rules that I've described here are new. The issues list obligation, that's been around since the early 1980s. The political file has existed in some form for decades. What changed in 2018 is that the compliance record, it became permanent, public, and searchable by anyone on the internet. The binder in the cabinet had a forgiveness, built in, but, if a quarter got missed, it might not come up until, the renewal. If a political ad got filed a day late, maybe nobody noticed. That time is gone. The online file has turned routine paperwork into ongoing legal exposure. Not because the rules got harder, but because transparency got higher. If you work at a radio station in any capacity, you're the engineer, program director, general manager, ownership, and you don't know exactly what's in your public file and when it was last updated, you should probably go check on that. Not because the FCC is knocking on your door tomorrow, but because the clock on the next license renewal is always ticking. And the timestamp on every upload is already on the record. That's it for this one. I'm Tyler Woodward. This is the Tyler Woodward Project. Follow me on Instagram, Threads, and Blue Sky at tylerwoodward.me, and you can find more at tylerwoodward.me. I'll catch you next week.